That was a song we played last Sunday, and I think it is a great piece for teaching worship guitar. So here we go. Let's start with the bass line. The bass line goes like this. And then it kind of repeats with a slight variation. So let's add the chord on top. As you can see, it is a simple descending bass line. And on top we have our 1 chord. And then we have a 5 chord on top of the 7. So this is our 1. This is our 5, which we can play like that. So we can just add this chord on top of the 7, which is right here. So we have 1, 7, right? We start with a 1, and then there's a 5 over 7, and then we have a 6. Right? There's a minor 7, 6 minor 7. This one is kind of interesting. So what we can do is basically play an A. So we have an open A with the harmony on top. But technically, this is a F sharp minor 7 over A. So we can also play an F minor over A instead of F sharp minor instead of F sharp minor 7. So F sharp minor we would play like this, which means we have this note and these two. And then we add an A in the root, which I think sounds a little better in this case. But normally I would just play the F sharp minor 7 over A, which kind of just looks like A, but we can't play the top string. But if we play the F sharp minor 7 over A, we kind of get an A6 chord. But technically this is F sharp minor over A. So we have this, and then we have our 4 chord. Now here we have 2 choices, and we can just play the 3 minor, but I actually think 1 over 3 sounds better. So this is our 1 chord, right? This is our D. So this is just the C shape, but moved up here. But we need to fret this open string, so we have to play like this. And since we are not playing the normal root, we are playing its inversion. You can fret the chord like this. Okay, so we have a 1 over 3, and then we have this looks complicated, but it's actually very simple. We are starting with an E minor in this bar, and then going to an E7 with the major third in the root, because that is the leading tone that is leading to our next chord, which is over here. So in the bass we have, and this note, if we raise it up an octave, we can hear that it is this note. And if we add that to our E minor, we just get an E major chord, right? So that is why we are adding this chord after our E minor. And this E7 is acting as a secondary dominant to our A. Right? And we have its inversion, so we have this in the root. And then we are adding an A7 at the end to lead to our D, which is our 1. We're in the key of D, by the way. I think I forgot to mention that. So this bar leads perfectly back to our 1 chord. And if you're singing along while playing guitar, I think this is the easier way to play it. But if I'm just playing guitar and not singing, I would prefer playing it a different way, which sounds like this. Right, it just adds a bit more movement in the bass, and that is the It also has the lick, which you hear throughout the original, so I love that. And the second time, the first half is the same, but I'll just play through quickly. Here, we go up to 5, but only the root. So the chord stays the same, we're only moving the root. And then the last bar of the verse, we have this. So what this is technically is a with the root staying in place. So this root we can also find here. And if we add the G shape on top, right, this G shape, we have to fret the open strings, we get this. And then we just play the same root, so that's how we get this shape. And then you can repeat, or you can go to the chorus. And the chorus is actually a lot easier. We have a lot less slash chords. We have the 4 going to 5. And then we have this. It's just a descending bass line. Now you can add this note on the top if you want. I think it can go both ways. Depends on your taste. So you can also play it like this, since we are not playing this note anymore. Whichever way you find easier. So we have and then it repeats, but the second ending is a little different. So here we have the same concept. We have an E minor going to an E7 because that leads to A. And here you can repeat the chorus, or you can go back to the verse. So Alright, and with this way of thinking, where we are separating the chord and the bass line, so we are playing a chord on top, doesn't matter what that chord is, and we are playing a separate bass line in the bottom. This way we are playing something that is more true to the original song and something that sounds a lot better, in my opinion. So if we don't do that, if we just play the chords like how a lot of people like to play, so we just ignore the slash chords, we just play the chord itself. So the first chord we had D, and then we have an A, and then we have a B minor 7, and then F sharp minor 7, and then G, and then D, and then this. But if we ignore the root, it's going to be like. And if we strum that, it's going to be something like. Which is fine, but it's very generic sounding in my opinion, so that makes pretty much all songs sound exactly the same, more or less. And if we play it properly, we can hear that not only do we get the bass line, in the harmony we also get something more interesting, like, right? yeah, if you have the ability to play the bass line as well, I would highly recommend you do that instead of only playing the chords, because that not only will it sound more generic, when we're using the higher strings, I find that it actually kind of fights with the vocalist. So for example, if we play D here, right, that clanginess kind of clashes with the vocals, I find, which is why I like to use this voicing. It's a lot warmer, and I think it just sounds better in a band. Yeah, so I try to avoid using the first string if I can. I only use it if I have to, or if it's really a lot more convenient, like during the turnaround. Sorry, give me one sec. Right, that is more convenient, so I can leave the bass note ringing while I swap to the D chord. So in that case, I will play the first string. But then I'm going to swap back to not using the first string. All right, have fun practicing.